Europe is intensively preparing for war with Russia. EU countries have finally realized that Kyiv was not joking when they said that the Russian Federation would not stop in Ukraine. And the threats from propagandists have stopped being funny.
Let me remind you that Ukraine is merely an intermediate stage in ensuring the strategic security of the Russian Federation.
After 3 years of full-scale war in Ukraine, Europe has awakened, not without the help of Trump, who explicitly stated that the security of the EU is not his priority at all. As a result, EU citizens have begun to be warned about emergency kits, and the officials themselves have rushed to pour money into defense and also to conduct exercises. Such preparation will take place, for example, this fall in Germany, and it is explicitly stated that large-scale exercises will be held in case of a Russian attack on NATO. What are these exercises? And is it too late? Europe has realized. All about this and more in just a moment. Red Storm Bravo. This is the code name for the exercises that the Bundeswehr will conduct on September 25th. They will last for 3 days and will take place both day and night. During the training, they plan to practice the movement of troops in urban areas, providing emergency medical assistance and evacuating the wounded. The most important task of the exercises is to practice the rapid deployment of Allied forces. That is so that in the event of a Russian attack, the military of the North Atlantic Alliance would be ready for a swift deployment. And just these exercises alone already indicate that the EU is very concerned about the future.
The danger of Russian aggression is understood quite deeply in all countries. And I don't see a big difference between what the leaders of France, Britain, Germany, or Spain and Italy are saying. And on the other hand, it's also clear that many, well, as they say, informal alliances are emerging. That is, there are many formats where discussions are held on how to strengthen their defense.
But are just discussions enough? Europeans expect that Russia will not attack now, but closer to the year 2030. And experts consider such complacency to be a huge mistake.
All the debates about Russia potentially being ready to attack NATO in 2029 are somewhat artificial debates. It's impossible to predict this, but Putin, if he wants to, if he has such plans, will not wait for NATO to prepare for war.
If we model that the Russian Federation will attack not in 5 years, but hypothetically next year, then EU countries are completely unprepared to repel a Russian attack. All scenarios of an attack on a random European country concluded that in less than a week, without the support of the North Atlantic Alliance, it would fall. Of course, a NATO member country will not fight alone. The alliance will step in. However, the warning signs for European countries are more than alarming, and European officials acknowledge this.
For instance, Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, says that in 3 months, Russia is now producing more weapons than all NATO members, European countries, the United Kingdom, Norway, the United States, and Canada, produce in a year. What is the difference in the production that we see today? It creates a kind of, well, feeling for Putin that he can indeed test us. And that's why we say that by the year 30, we must implement these NATO goals for defensive capabilities.
Plans are good. But again, is there time?
The potential conclusion of a potentially significant negative peace treaty on Ukraine frees Putin and his military for other actions. Large military exercises called Zapad have already been announced, which are to take place in Belarus in the fall of 2025. My friends in Lithuania and other Baltic countries are very concerned about these maneuvers, because we saw that similar maneuvers in 2021 preceded the full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
This means we need to be ready not in 5 years, but already in a year.
We are now moving out of a zone of stability, and statesmen need to demonstrate themselves as leaders, convinced of European unity. And we, as Europeans, must not only talk it, but also actively develop our defense.
And also not forget that the USA might not come to help in the event of a Russian attack on Europe.
What is happening is a huge challenge for the West and for Europeans because we have relied heavily on the USA for our own security. And now we are witnessing a restructuring of the Western defense architecture. This will take some time because this system is 75 years old.
We Europeans have 450 odd million inhabitants, right? In the United States of America, it's 340 million. And somehow we cry and ask and somehow complain of why don't 340 million Americans want to take responsibility for the defense of 450 million against 140 million inhabitants in Russia, which cannot manage to defeat 38 million Ukrainians.
This acknowledgement from a European official is undoubtedly encouraging. Only minor details remain to increase combat power. After all, the fact that Europe's weaponry is better and of higher quality than Russia's is beyond doubt. However, time is an unbearable luxury for Europeans. The Russian Federation tests the patience of the EU and NATO. Russian special services are not shy about staging provocations, and observing Putin's games only encourages the Kremlin to continue.
I think Putin is going to continue testing us in hybrid warfare. We have already seen damage to cables at the bottom of the Baltic Sea and elsewhere, and he is going to test this again. If there is no joint strong reaction from our side, Putin will definitely continue. He will try to undermine our society from within. Look at how this is already happening in Germany, France, Slovakia, Hungary, and other countries. And a situation may arise as early as this fall or later, where a Russian brigade comes across the bridge in Narva, Estonia, and says, now this is Russian territory. What will your reaction be?
And that is the question Europeans should have answered long ago, and we can only hope that they have at least answered it now. At the very least, as we can see, there are already positive shifts. Europe is preparing to push back, and even do so without the USA if Trump decides to abandon the EU citizens.
The fact is that we are a de facto, truly large organization, economically strong. Our economic potential is 10 times greater than that of Russia. And we need to translate this into having a proper military force so that we can defend ourselves.
Do you think Putin really wants to attack Europe? When and will European countries be able to resist? Share your thoughts in the comments. Also, don't forget to like this video. And be sure to subscribe to our Arsenal channel so you don't miss all the most interesting content.
Beijing is targeting Taiwan, the communists' dream of returning the island to its native harbor.
The People's Republic of China periodically stirs up military hysteria around Taiwan.
Punishment for separatism. This is how the Celestial Empire's authorities dubbed the military exercises that began on March 17th off the coast of Taiwan.
Chinese military exercises near Taiwan on Monday became a punishment for the ongoing separatist propaganda by Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te. This is stated in a harsh statement from Beijing.
In China, they assert that the reunification of the mainland with the island is inevitable. And while the communists publicly declare a peaceful annexation, in reality, Beijing is preparing for war.
The United States claims that China will be ready to invade Taiwan by 2027.
What is the history of the Chinese-Taiwanese conflict? What are the possible scenarios for the development of the war, as well as the military capabilities of these two states? More on this in the arsenal. The Republic of China, Taiwan, in its current form, is the result of a civil war. In the 1945-1950s in China, when, as a result of a series of armed conflicts between the forces of the Republic of China and local communists, the latter seized power on the mainland part of China.
We are urging for the eradication of war. We do not need war. But war can only be eradicated through war. If you want there to be no rifles, take up a rifle?
Interestingly, it was initially the Kuomintang government which fled to Taiwan that was considered the official China at the international level.
The Republic of China Taiwan is one of the founding states of the UN and one of the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council. It was only in 1971 that the Republic of China ceded its place in the UN to the People's Republic of China. And since that time, accordingly, the UN and the majority of the global community officially recognized the jurisdiction of the People's Republic of China over both mainland China and consequently Taiwan.
As of today, 11 small UN member countries maintain official diplomatic relations with Taiwan, bypassing Beijing. And since such recognition of the Taiwanese authorities puts an end to relations with mainland China, most developed countries maintain connections with the island of Taiwan through cultural and economic representations. In fact, even Taiwan's key ally, the United States, does not recognize the island's independence.
The United States conducts, since the recognition and establishment of diplomatic relations and subsequent development with the PRs, and that was in 1979, they pursue a policy that there is one country, but indeed 2 political systems. And within the framework of this US doctrine, it specifically allows Taiwan to exist in its current form in the geopolitical landscape currently.
In turn, the Chinese communists, as they perceive it, view Taiwan and its residents as separatists whose fate is determined on the mainland.
Both the People's Republic of China and Taiwan recognize each other's territories as temporarily occupied and uncontrolled. That is to say, neither Taiwan nor accordingly China. And even though they do not recognize the very fact of existence of the opposing state, and even though
Beijing declares its intention to achieve reunification through economic and diplomatic means, the military solution to the Taiwan issue has never been ruled out.
China is ready to do everything possible to strive for peaceful reunification with the greatest sincerity. At the same time, China will take all necessary measures to protect national sovereignty and territorial integrity. The Taiwan issue is at the core of China's fundamental interests and is the first non-negotiable red line in China-US relations.
In terms of its own defense, Taipei relies on itself and Washington. The fact that Taiwan is an island on one hand creates additional challenges, such as the possibility of encirclement and a naval blockade by Beijing, but also certain advantages in terms of defense. To defend against its significantly larger communist adversary, the Republic of China Taiwan focuses on developing its naval and air forces. The main task of the Republic of China's Air Force is to protect the airspace over and around the island of Taiwan from attacks by the PRC. Current priorities include the development of long-range radar detection, control, and guidance systems, acquisition of retaliatory strike weapons, next-generation fighters, and strengthening the defense of airfields and other military facilities. Taipei's arsenal includes hundreds of combat aircraft, including 120 American F-16 fighters, 56 French Mirage 2000s, and over 100 D-Zingo multi-role fighters of domestic production. The situation with the Navy in the Republic of China is somewhat different. In maritime matters, Taiwan relies even more on its allies, primarily the United States.
Taiwan is a key strategic partner of the United States, not a NATO bloc. And accordingly, the United States is effectively the guarantor of the existence of this state.
The Taiwanese Navy consists of 9 large landing ships, 22 frigates, 31 missile boats, and 4 submarines. The majority of the ships and submarines were supplied to Taiwan by the United States and the Netherlands. In the 1980s and 1990s, As of today, Taiwan's naval component lags behind China both in quantity and quality. Realizing that the island cannot withstand the mainland in naval battles, the Taiwanese authorities have focused on developing their own anti-ship missiles. In 2011, the Taiwanese Navy began to adopt the new domestically produced Sunfeng 3 supersonic anti-ship missile. These anti-ship missiles are planned to be equipped on 15 warships as well as mobile coastal installations. The Sunfeng is capable of reaching speeds of up to Mach 2 and hitting targets within a radius of 130 kilometers. In turn, China is developing various invasion options. Beijing's investments in the armed forces are growing rapidly. In recent years, China's defense budget has increased by 16% and exceeded $223 billion. Globally, China is competing with the US in military potential, which is why special attention is again being paid to naval and air forces. The personnel strength of China's Air Force alone is 395,000 people. As of the beginning of 2024, there were more than 2,500 combat aircraft in service, including about 200 Chinese fifth-generation G-20 fighters, which were commissioned in 2017. Taiwan's Ministry of Defense stated that China conducted joint combat readiness patrols once in the morning and once in the afternoon, deploying 54 Chinese military aircraft, including J-10 fighters and drones to areas adjacent to Taiwan. A similar situation exists with China's naval forces. The personnel number is over 260,000 people. China's Navy has more combat ships than the USA, 350 compared to 293. In addition to ships, China has dozens of submarines and 3 aircraft carriers, the latest of which is the Fujian, equipped with electromagnetic catapults. It was launched in 2022 for fighter jets. Chinese aircraft carriers, ships, and submarines, along with fighter jets, regularly participate in naval exercises that Beijing conducts around the island of Taiwan. In addition to a direct confrontation using aviation and ships, Beijing is also considering more specific options. Journalists from Naval News claim that China is building special bridge ships that will be able to deliver a large number of troops and heavy armored vehicles from the mainland directly to the island. China is building at least 5 new special-purpose towers, which seem to be specifically designed for landing operations. Havasi. The barges can provide China with a unique way to unload a large number of tanks directly onto Taiwanese roads in a strategic, efficient, effective, and coordinated manner. That's all for now. Don't forget to write in the comments about which types of weapons you would like to learn more about. Like this video and, of course, subscribe to our new Arsenal channel. The link is in the desk.